There are fresh pictures coming in of that day, the 26th of January, at the Red Fort. These are pictures of the 26th of January 2021, the moments when a large section of people who claim to be farmers drove their tractors straight to the Red Fort and then went inside. For the first time, we are seeing a different perspective. So far, you only saw visuals of them outside where the police had to jump into the moat. Now these pictures are from inside the Red Fort as to what exactly happened. You can see a large number of people, well above 1,000, certainly above 1,000, this is a safe guess to make, have moved into the complex with their tractors on foot, going straight inside. In fact, in one of the pictures, you could even see a horse being taken inside. Many of these protesters carrying lathis, swords in their hands, as you can see right now in these pictures, charging at the police. So this is the devastating scene at the Red Fort from the 26th of January. Mariam now joins us with all the latest. Mariam, what more can you tell us about these pictures? Who released them, by the way?
Yes, Ankit, so these are videos that our colleague Mukesh Sengar has been able to source from Delhi police sources. And of course, as you were just saying, that these visuals are of course quite dramatic. We can see a large number of protesters yielding swords and lathis, charging at the Red Fort, at the police personnel there as well. But again, we need to understand the source of these videos. These have come from Delhi police sources. So of course, and these videos seem to bolster the claims of the Delhi police of what actually happened at the Red Fort on Republic Day. So this actually gives credence to their version of events. In fact, we were there, me and my colleague Srinivasan Jain, we were there at the Red Fort when a lot of this was happening. In fact, we'd come in right after the first attempt wherein the protesters had climbed up to the ramparts, etc. So what we had seen was quite similar as well. We did see a lot of protesters taking on a violent turn, actually destroying public property, hitting, even we in fact saw security personnel being beaten up and roughed up by certain protesters. But it's also important to highlight that while we were there, we also saw the other side. While there were one section of protesters who were roughing up security personnel, etc., we also saw a group of protesters who were actually trying to escort injured security personnel officers, in fact trying to stop the other protesters from turning violent and attacking the security personnel as well. So there is that side of the story as well.
That's right, Mariam, but very few of those stories. We also saw pictures released by, in fact, many of our colleagues were able to source these pictures, these visuals of people among the farmers, among the protesters saying that we are damaging our own cause. One could see those pictures, but you know, this was largely the dominating scenario at the Red Fort, what we see in these latest fresh pictures. Of course, they've been released by the Delhi police, but this is pretty much how it unfolded. Do these pictures, Mariam, end up answering the few crucial questions, though, about the security deployment at the Red Fort, and most importantly, who opened the gate of the Red Fort?
Sakit, those are questions that we still have, a lot of the journalists have been asking, and that questions that still remain about how did the protesters, in fact, even after the Delhi police was aware of a tractor rally on the January 26th, they say it was on good faith that they'd allowed them to take out the parade, but they also claimed that they had some intelligence reports about a possible violent turn that the protests could take. But even despite that, how did the event get so out of hand? How were the protesters able to not only enter the compounds of Red Fort, but also actually climb all the way to the top? In fact, some of the visuals that we've seen protesters even taking in their horses, etc. in there. They were wielding lathis, they have swords in their hands, some of them. How did all that happen? Those are questions that still remain.
Yes, in fact, as we go full frame to these pictures, we can see a number of things happening. You can see protesters trying to stop, some of these protesters trying to stop, or making a failed attempt rather, to stop these people from going inside. Then you can see a large number of protesters moving around in the ramparts of the Red Fort, some even with their tractors. Then around this area, that very evening, we saw pictures of of lathi-wielding protesters beating up the police in such a way that they had to jump in the moat. And now these pictures where you can see that the police did appear outnumbered by the number of protesters.
So when we were there at the Red Fort on Republic Day, this was something we had constantly highlighted as well on the day, was that at least when we were there, what we saw was that the security personnel seemed to have been limited to the periphery of the Red Fort. In the center, on the grounds, in the heart of the Red Fort, you couldn't find that many men in khaki or men in uniform right there. But they were all limited to the periphery. But once we went to that side, where the security personnel were actually stationed, it was not about a paucity of forces, Sanket. There was a large number of forces that were there at the Red Fort, but the question still remains, how then did the situation get so out of hand?
Yeah, but you know, Mariam, that also depends as to what time of the day is this footage from. Is this exactly moments when these people stormed in, or is it from moments later when people were there and the police was also deployed? Because police came as a reinforcement, as we saw in your report, you and Vasu's report, that they were there as reinforcement, but they were asked to stand by. So do we have clarity of when is this footage from? Moments after these people went in, or a little later? Or this is too much specifics?
It would be in the realm of speculation, but this seems to be from earlier in the day when the crowd was in a slightly more charged up mood than they were in the later part of the day. This seems to be from that point of time, because there are so many protesters up on the ramparts with security officers as well, and we can see that them clashing on top as well with the protesters, some of them yielding lathis and swords, etc. So even though it's in the realm of speculation, but this seems to be from the earlier part of the day.
Absolutely. Mariam, thank you very much for getting us all the latest. So a fresh set of pictures that have now been released by the Delhi police to show what horror unfolded on the 26th of January inside the Red Fort.